Welcome back, students. So in this slot we are going to discuss three important area. It's first one is why the Mahatma Gandhi ji withdrawn the non-cooperation movement, and then that's afterward formation of Swaraj Party, and next thing is second one is the organizing of civil disobedience movement. The second most important the movement organized by the Gandhiji, the civil disobedience movement, and then the another third important area is which are the different types of people, group of people took part in this movement, and what were their aspirations, what were their expectations in participating in this movement. We are going to see in this slot, my dear students. Now first let us see. So movement, the non-cooperation movement was ranking throughout India with great success and all. And thing was that so Gandhiji at the one of the incident what he heard, the incident was went on in violent way. Because of the violent way, Gandhiji is going to withdraw this non-cooperation movement. What was that incident, my dear students? This is in Chauri Chaura, Gorakhpur district of Uttar Pradesh. Here a peaceful procession or a demonstration was going in the bazaar, and it was in front of police station also. It was moving, and then the peaceful going procession, from the police station, the police were fired, and then when the police were fired from the police station, and then people became uncontrolled, and they attacked on this police station, and they killed several police also, and the incident went on violence. It became violence, and Gandhiji strictly instructed that the movement should go with peace and non-violence. At any cost, it should not be violate the violence. He was instructed, but hearing the incident, Mahatma Gandhiji decided to halt the non-cooperation movement. So he decided to halt the non-cooperation movement. What he felt in February 1922, Gandhiji withdrawn the non-cooperation movement, and then he felt the movement was turning violent in many places. It should not be violent. It is going to be huge loss of life and property to Indians only, because the Britishers were powerful with arms and ammunition to suppress we people and all, and it's great loss to be that one. So that was the one reason. And he also told Satyagrahis need to be properly trained. So if are properly trained means they are not involved in the violence. It should be properly trained before they would be ready for mass struggle and all. So with this incident, the Chauri Chaura incident, so Mahatma Gandhiji withdrawn this non-cooperation movement student. And after the withdrawing the non-cooperation movement, some of Indian National Congress leaders were not happy with the decision also. But what to do? So it has to be continued. So foundation of Swaraj Party it has been found. Within the Congress, some of leaders wanted to continue the mass struggle through participation in the provincial council election. In the provincial council election, already I told 8 provinces were there. Now more and more Swaraj Party, through the Swaraj Party, more and more representatives wanted to enter the provincial legislative council. And then what their objective they had, they felt that it was important to oppose the British policy within the council. Within the council, British policies has to be opposed and criticized, and argue for reform of India. They wanted to argue for reform in India, and they also wanted to demonstrate that these councils are not truly democratic. Councils are function of legislative council for mockery. It is not a real democratic way. They wanted to prove it. So Swaraj Party, the top leaders were there. This mainly it was started in West Bengal, my dear students, Bengal province only. C.R. Das, Chittaranjan Das, and Motilal Nehru formed the Swaraj Party within the Congress, and later Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose, they took its leadership and all. And this was more radical, it became more radical. And then by this time, arrival and oppose of Simon Commission. In response to the nationalist movement, new British Tory government constituted a statutory commission under the Sir John Simon. John Simon was president of the Simon Commission, and it was sent to India. What was the objective to arrival of the Simon Commission to India? Objectives of appointing the Simon Commission. The Simon Commission was looking into the function of constitutional system in India, 1919 constitution system, how it is functioning, what are the drawbacks and weak points and strength points are there, it is going to report. And next, it is also going to be suggested changes required to the next constitutional reform act in 1935. With these two reasons, this Simon Commission was arrived in India. But this Simon Commission was greatly opposed throughout India. This with the wherever Simon Commission is visiting, with this one with team and all, and then the Simon go back. Indians are gathered in a large number, and they were opposed with so many banner, flag and all, black flags were shown to the Simon and saying that Simon go back. Why it was? Because Simon Commission did not had a single Indian member. Only reason, Simon Commission did not have a single member of Indian. All were British only. So definitely they will do the work for favor of British only by thinking that. So it is a opposed all over India, and wherever it goes, it was demonstrated against them. So with this reason, and then with great difficulty, this task completed by this John Simon Commission in the commission, and it was went back, and even they told your demands will be discussed and talked in a round table conference, like that they informed. But the offer of this one, the next one is important, is offer of dominion status or a provincial independence. What is the dominion status? Dominion status means the province, 8 province I told, no, 8 province will be given the independence, and they can rule, the Indians can rule as per their will and wish, like that it was. But in the effort to win the support and consoling the Simon Commission's nationwide oppose, the Viceroy Irving announced on October 1929 a vague offer, dominion status for Indian. It was a vague offer. It was no any clear cut the information. This offer was unspecified future, and he also stated to decide the future of constitution. The round table conference would be called like that. He was counseled the Indians and then Indian leaders and all, and these promises were not satisfied the radical Congress leaders, my dear students. So that's one. And then there's another one great incident is going to take place. There's a Lahore INC session, Indian National Congress session of 1929. In this session, it was the president of this Indian National Congress was Jawaharlal Nehru, and this radical leader with the Congress of Jawaharlal Nehru, and then Subhash Chandra Bose became more assertive, more powerful in this Indian National Congress. And then they strongly opposed the constitutional system within the framework of British dominion. So constitutional system of this one. And then now in December 1929, under the presidentship of Jawaharlal Nehru, the Lahore Indian National Congress session was organized and finalized below of them. The sum of important decisions were taken, and then the important decisions. What are the important decisions were there? In this INC session, Lahore INC session, first important decision was demand for Purna Swaraj. We don't want any dominion status, full independence. Till the full independence, our struggle will be continued like that. It was the full demanded for full independence, my dear students. And then second one is that's known as Purna Swaraj, demand for Purna Swaraj. 26th January 1930 onwards, it will be decided to celebrate Independence Day every year. 26th January 1930, we should be celebrated after 1930 to 1946. Till that we celebrated the 26th January only our Independence Day, students. So the same day we are keeping that 26th January as a Republic Day to commemorate of those days and those days, students. So that is the 26th January 1930 onwards would be decided to celebrate the Independence Day. And then all the peoples took pledge for struggle to get it. All the peoples they took this one pledge to get this demand. So Purna Swaraj was ultimate demand, my dear students. With this demand, they were strongly, Indian National Congress became very much strong and most powerful also. Yes. the 3.1, the Salt March and civil disobedience movement. So now Gandhiji, this movement is also popularly known as Salt March. Why Gandhiji is given this name? It's as a Salt March, and how the civil disobedience movement is organized. These are the informations we are going to see in this one. Mahatma Gandhi found in salt a powerful symbol that could unite the nation. The salt is having a powerful, salt is going to be a powerful symbol to unite all the Indian. So on 31st January 1930, he sent a letter to the Viceroy Irving stating 11 demands, stating the 11 demands. Some of these were general interest, others were specific demands, and different classes from industrialists to peasants, they are going to take part in this civil disobedience movement, students. The idea was to make demand wide ranging, and so all the classes with Indian society and the country could identify them, and everyone could be brought together in the united campaign. It's a united campaign, and the thing is, and particularly why salt is given the top priority also, we are going to see, my dear students. See why it is also known as Salt March. The most steering of all was demand to abolish the salt tax. So British are imposed the tax on salt also. So salt was something consumed by the rich and poor alike. All people, they will consume the salt, and it was one of the most essential item of food. And then without salt, we cannot prepare the food also. It's essential. Who are consuming the salt, all will be going to take part in this movement and all. And then the tax on salt. Salt is available naturally, plenty and cheaply. So naturally available, plenty available and cheaply available. For this, the salt also British did not leave exempted from this imposing tax and all. It reflects the government monopoly over its production. So Mahatma Gandhi declared revealed that is the most oppressive phase of British rule. So tax on salt is the most oppressive phase of British rule that he declared, and he took a salt march, beginning of civil disobedience movement as a salt march. And then beginning of the salt march, Gandhiji's letter was in a way an ultimatum, final warning to this Irving, and then he demanded, if 11 demands were not fulfilled by 11th March, the letter stated the Congress would be launching civil disobedience campaign. So if not completed till March, this one it will not be. So that's why which was given ultimatum to the Irving. The Irving was unwilling to negotiate, and he was least bothered about his warning and ultimatum and all. And so Mahatma Gandhiji started his famous Salt March, accompanied by 78 of his trusted volunteers. The march was over 240 miles from Gandhiji's ashrama in Sabarmati in Gujarat to the coastal town Dandi. Coastal town Dandi is a 240 kilometer distance. The volunteers walked for 24 days, about 10 miles a day. So they could cover the 240 miles, my dear students. And then here, so thousands came to hear the Mahatma Gandhi's speech, and wherever he stopped, and he told them what is meant by Swaraj, and urged them to peacefully defy the British, peacefully peacefully struggle against the British. On 6th April, the Gandhiji reached Dandi and ceremonially violated the law. Breaken the law. This civil disobedience movement is started, and manufactured the salt by boiling the sea water. By this way, and Gandhiji ceremonially violated the law, and all Indians also, he appealed to all Indians also to break this law and violate this law, and then he was informed, and throughout nation the peoples, they were took part in this movement, and wherever the salt godowns were there, in front of salt godowns, picketing was done, and then these are the so many things they are done, and then even different districts, all the coastal area, people took voluntarily, and they participated in this civil disobedience movement, and it grand successfully it was moving. Yes, how the participants saw the movement, the different social groups that took participation in this civil disobedience movement. About the 5 main important groups that took part in this civil disobedience movement, and it given the great support for this movement. So first, let us see, students, which are so first important the community which took part in the civil disobedience movement is number 1 is the countryside rich peasants community, rich peasants, rich farmers, they took part in this movement. The rich peasants community, like the patidars of Gujarat, yes, and Jats of Uttar Pradesh were active in the movement. They were producer of commercial crops. They used to produce large quantity of the commercial crops and all, and they hard hit by the trade depression and falling the prices and all. Their savings were exhausted, and cash was also disappeared, and felt to impossible to pay the government revenue, land revenue. They are unable to pay the land revenue in such a situation. So they wanted exemption from the paying the tax. Another side, government refused to exempt or reduce the revenue, and it led to widespread of resentment. So in this connection, so the peasants became enthusiastically support of the civil disobedience movement organized in their community, and for them Swaraj was struggle against the high revenue and or exemption. They want exemption from paying this land revenue and all. But they disappointed when the movement was called off in 1931 without fulfilling the objectives. So when the movement was restarted in 1932, many of them refused to participate in this one. So students, the most important community, the rich peasants community, they took part in this movement. And then the second most important community, my dear students, that is the poor peasants in the rural area. The poor peasants' expectations from the civil disobedience movement was different. Many of them were small tenants. They cultivated land by getting the rent from the landlords. And now, due to the depression and then economic depression, and their cash and savings was exhausted, and found paying rent to the landlord became impossible. So it was the situation of the poor peasants, and then they wanted unpaid the rent. That's their demand of the civil disobedience movement was unpaid the rent, and the no tax campaign was started, and so they joined the socialist and the communist groups, and then Indian National Congress was unwilling the demands and unwilling to support, because it was led by the landlords. Indian National Congress was led by the landlords. Because of the landlords, they are not given any scope and support for these poor peasants. So relationship between Indian National Congress and poor peasants were remain uncertain. It was became uncertain. And then third important group, my dear students, the business class. Business class during the First World War, Indian merchants, industrialists made huge profit and became powerful. So they are keen in expanding it. They wanted to they want to get more profit and more income from their trade and all. Now they reacted against the colonial policy and restrictions on the business. They wanted protection. This business class wanted protection against the import of foreign goods. Foreign goods should be stopped. When you stop the foreign goods, their produced goods only, it will be purchased by the Indians. That was their one. They organized Indian Industrial and Commercial Congress, IICC, in 1920, and Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, FICCI, in 1929, and the prominent leaders were there, Purushottama Das, Thakur Das, and then G.D. Birla. These are two important leaders. They formed this business people's association, and there with these demands, the protection from the import, with this demand, the business leaders were entered this civil disobedience movement. They were against to the buying and selling of foreign goods and remove the restrictions on the trade. With these demands, the business class also took part in this civil disobedience movement, my dear friends. And fourth important group is the industrial working class. This class did not participate large scale in the civil disobedience movement, my dear students, except the Nagpur region was more active, next one, because the industrialists were found closer to the Indian National Congress and civil disobedience movement. So workers stayed aloof. Who will ask the demands of workers and all? All industrial leaders, industrialists were there in the Indian National Congress. So the workers' demands, nobody were there to listen. So they were kept aloof. In spite of that, some workers took part in the civil disobedience movement through boycotting the foreign goods against the low wage and the poor working condition, this one, and the strikes by the railway workers in the 1930, dock workers in the 1932, workers in the Chota Nagpur tin mine. It was worth mentioning in this movement. They took part in this civil disobedience movement. But INC was reluctant to include the workers' demand as a part of its program of struggle and felt that it may divide the industrialists from INC. If they took the demand of industrial workers, means the industrialists may go away and they may join with the Britishers. So it will maybe disunity creating the INC like that. So their demands also kept alike, and this one it was not given the top priority. So that's what same. Earlier present the landlords were there, the rich landlords. The rich landlords, they are also not given due respect and due status to the small peasants. And here also this industrialists, they did not give respect and due status to the industrial worker class, even though they took part in this civil disobedience movement of this hour. The great thing we can worth mentioning, my dear friends. Now you see the another one very important, most important group is the participation of women. In this one, another most students, the 50% of our population, around about 50% of populations are women. Women were not given due respect, due representations. Lot many rights were not given this one. So another most important group was participated were women's participations of women in this civil disobedience movement in a large scale. This is a special one, and then thousands of women come out of the home to listen the Gandhiji's speech during the Salt Satyagraha. So the Sabarmati ashram to Dandi, when Gandhiji started the Salt Satyagraha, wherever Gandhiji is halting, the giving speech, large number of women used to take part in his speech, and here they participated in the protest marches also, and then manufactured the salt, women, and picketed the foreign cloth and liquor shops, and then foreign cloth in front of foreign cloth selling shops and the liquor shops and all, they did the picketing and given the strong support for this movement. And many went to jail. Many women were there, went to jail also. And then here, which are the community women took part in this movement? In the urban area, urban high caste family women were took part. In the rural area, rich peasants women took part in this civil disobedience movement, my dear friends. The INC was reluctant to allow the women's demand, allow the women's demand to hold them under any position. So women are not given any position, any status in this Indian National Congress and in this movement. In spite of not giving any status and any position also, women were took part and they made grand success of this one. So students, the 5 important communities with their different aspirations, different demands and all, with that demand, they took part in this non-cooperation movement and made this movement was to some extent great success also. It is most worth mentioning. So the limits of civil disobedience movement. Limits of civil disobedience means which are the communities did not took part in this civil disobedience movement. This content we are going to discuss here, my dear students. Not all the social groups were moved by the abstract concept of Swaraj. There are the two important groups. They did not took part in this one. The one is the untouchable group was not participated is one. In the 1930 began to call themselves as they are Dalit or depressed people, and even so that is a this was a Sanatana Hindus, high caste Hindus were also ignored, neglected. They did not give due respect, due status for this Dalit, or what we say, this depressed class, my dear friends. So this is about here one of the important area, and to Gandhiji, Mahatma Gandhiji was very much concerned about these people, Mahatma Gandhiji and untouchability. Here Mahatma Gandhiji declared that Swaraj would not come for 100 years if untouchability was not eliminated. That was his thought about this untouchability. He called the untouchable people Harijan. He called them as a Harijan with this due respect, the children of God. That's one. And organized satyagraha to secure them entry in the temples and access the public well, tank and the roads and even schools, my dear students. Due status, due respect, Mahatma Gandhiji wanted to give this untouchable people. And he himself cleaned the toilet to dignify the work of the Bhangi. Bhangi, the sweeper class people. Sweeper, where the class work is not underestimated, should not be underestimated. They should be given the due respect, that one. And he himself is cleaned and been as a model to the people. And then he persuaded the upper class to change their heart, to show this some due respect to the Dalits and all, and give up the sin of untouchability, not to practice untouchability, to give up this sin and all. And then, so the thoughts and demands of Dalits, what were these demands? The many Dalit leaders were keen on a different political solutions to their problems of the community. They wanted to find out the solutions differently. They began organizing themselves and demanding their Dalit members, demanding reservation of seats in educational institutions, demanded for separate electorate to choose their Dalit members for legislative council, and they wanted to resolve the problems of their social disability. Yes, sir. They want reservation in educational institution. They want reservation in the legislative council for Dalits and all. It was the major demands. Therefore, Dalit participation in the civil disobedience movement was limited. Sanatana Hindus were not giving due respect, due support, and they considered the demands of Dalits. So that's what they were separated in this one. But in Maharashtra and Nagpur region, their organization was quite strong and it was powerful in some extent, my dear students. And then Dalit and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar organized the Dalits movement into the Depressed Class Association in the 1930. This Depressed Class Association, he was formed. And this clashed with Mahatma Gandhiji at the second round table conference by demanding separate electorate for Dalits. Ambedkar demanded for separate electorate for Dalit in the round table conference, second round table conference. But Mahatma Gandhiji was never expected this one, because this one, when the British government considered the Ambedkar's demand, the Gandhiji began the Indian National Congress movement. It's going to be weak. It is not going to be powerful and all. So INC should be strong and powerful, means the India, it should not be divided in this group and all. That was the intention. Gandhiji began. So when Gandhiji Ambedkar did not accept and this one, and then Gandhiji went on fast unto death, and he believed, separate electorate for Dalit would be slow down the process of their integration of the society. To integrate the society and all, there should not be separate reservation for the Dalits during the British period. And he promised after the independence, the Dalits would be given the due reservation, due respect, due status for this Dalits and all. At last, Pune Pact was set up in 1932. Pune Pact is the most important pact. That pact was made with Gandhiji and Mahatma Gandhiji and Ambedkar. Here Ambedkar accepted the Gandhiji's position and this one Gandhiji's position. Now Ambedkar should not demand any reservation from the Britishers and he should be keep quiet. And then Mahatma Gandhiji, after the independence and all, they are ready to give the due respect, due reservation to the Dalits and all, and agreement was made. That agreement is known as Pune Pact. So that's only later known them as a scheduled caste, reserved seat in central and provincial legislative councils, my dear students. These are the important one, the agreement that they made with this one. And then second most important community which did not took part in the freedom movement is the Muslim community and did not took part in the civil disobedience movement, dear students. The second most important community who did not took part in this one, because there was after the decline of non-cooperation and Khilafat movement, large section of Muslims left alienated from the INC. There was a common clashes between Hindu and Muslim religious communities. The relation between the Hindus and Muslims worsened. Each communities organized the procession and communal clashes, riots in the various cities. And every riots deepened the distance between the communities, the Hindu and Muslims, the joining in this one. Two important communities, my dear students, they did not took part in this civil disobedience movement. Is a great movement and alienated, separated from the this one. So with these the limitations we can decide it is a limitation, one of the important limitation of this our civil disobedience movement.